y'all, I know a lot of y'all are tired of studying for this exam and still second guessing yourself after every question. Well, you're not alone and you are in the right place. My name's Ariza. I'm a licensed clinical social worker with over a decade of experience helping people just like you pass the LMSW and LCSW exam. I've helped hundreds of test takers to success, and now I'm here to help you do the same thing. So whether you're a first time or a repeat test taker, this is the place to get the tools, the strategies, and the mindset you need to level up and pass this exam. So let's get into it. Today we are talking about communities. Yes, communities or community social work, however you want to break it down. This is something that you are likely to see on the exam. So I, of course, have taken all of the meat and chopped it up in little tiny pieces so it is digestible for you. So sit tight. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to jump into this topic and simplify it like never before so you don't look at these questions on the exam like, what that mean? I don't remember studying that. Or why do I need to know that? These are not the questions you should be asking. The questions you should be asking is, how can I level up, obtain this information, digest it, so when I see it on the exam, I'm ready to roll. You got me, swole? All right, so communities in the ASWB exam. This is for my LMSW and my LCSW test takers. And of course, I have a lot of BSW people who have been reaching out to me as well. I don't really focus on that exam, but I'm sure the content on here is only going to make you succeed and do even better. It's probably a little bit more advanced and a little bit more than what you need, but I'm sure if you plan on leveling up and just being able to have as much knowledge as you can, this is the place to get it. All right, you got me. So let me go ahead and move forward and share my screen. As you can see what we're talking about today, I hope you find this topic to be helpful, and we're going to make sure that it's easy and digestible. All right, so here are some core concepts you must know. What is a community in social work? Let's start there. A community basically is just a group with a shared identity, a geography, or interest. So basically, you guys are my community. You are my test prep community. You are a group of people that I have identified that all have an MSW. You live in all over the United States of America. You're not in other countries. And your interest is to pass the exam. And you would like to do that by obtaining knowledge. So therefore, we are the definition of a community. Hopefully that makes sense. So when you look at the different types of community, you can focus on the geographic, like neighborhoods, cities, and so forth. So if you live in a certain sub-city or a certain area or sub-community in your area or neighborhood, you would be known as, oh, we are the blah, blah, blah community. We are the Inglewood community. We are the Birchwood community. We are the Suburban Acres community. Like all these different things will be classified as a community, and you're identified by your geographic location. Another thing could be by your cultural or identified based community. So we have here listed the LGBTQ plus community. You also have religious groups. Maybe you consider yourself to be part of the Christian community, a part of the Muslim community, a part of the, I don't know, Buddhist community. Whatever it is, these are communities in sectors in the religion, but they all classify as having like a, common interest in this case, or a common way that they identify themselves. Let's see. Some other communities might be virtual, like online support groups. They have online support groups for grieving parents. They have online support groups for spousal relationship conflict. They have it for, the gaming community. All these types of things can be virtual. That's a really big one. Most of you, if you have children that game, I know my son can, he games all the time. All right, stay focused. But with that being said, he will be classified as a part of a gaming community with the group that he hangs with. They all have a similar interest and goal. And then you also have communities that are functional, like professional networks, advocacy groups, and so forth. You might be a part of like the NASW has a group. So you might be a part of their group. You might be a part of in my area, we have, I'm sure in most areas they have like the Black Social Workers Association. So that would be a community, a professional network or group of people who connect with the common goal of interest. I'm a part of a sorority, Delta Sigma Theta. So with that being said, I'm a part of a professional group of women and we all are a community. Hopefully this is understandable. I know you guys like, look, we get it. We know what a community is. However, my job is to make sure that you really, really know. So that's why I'm taking my time with this. All right, let's move on. So let's talk about the key roles of a social worker inside of a community. Number one, they can be an advocate. This is where they're fighting for policy changes. Say if your client is trying to find housing or they're having difficulty adopting or doing certain things, you would be an advocate. That is your role in certain community situations. An organizer, absolutely. This is where we help mobilize people. We help get them to where they need to be so we can kind of organize and get things in a better space so the community goal can be obtained. So that would be like the town halls, protests. In my neighborhood, they have like these community meetings like once a month where everyone in the neighborhood comes together and talks about the great things, the things they want to change, all the updates and everything, and they get together. So a social worker might organize that type of event or community group. Another one would be educator. Yes, we teach skills, we do resources. A financial literacy workshop, as I use here for an example, is an amazing one. A lot of times we have housing workshops. We use affordable housing for the advocacy, but that's also something that we do in an educator role. Sometimes clients are not aware of the housing resources that are available to them, so you might offer a workshop to teach them that. You also might have like a money management skills or a workshop. Yes, I'm a certified financial social worker, so that would be something that I could do in my capacity where I put together an event or a group and I talk about financial literacy within the context of whatever the person is dealing with or addressing in my role as a social worker. And then another example here we have is broker. That is when you link clients to services. Just think about a real estate broker. What is their job? To link clients to like housing resources and make sure the housing resources are available and affordable and all that kind of stuff for their clients. So in this case, when you have a broker, they're linking clients. So you might have a client that is in need of services, and you might say, oh, okay, well, you need to do job training. We need to get you connected with these food banks. We need to get you blah, blah, blah. You see it. As social workers, we do a lot, guys. We wear a lot of different hats. And I'm sure you can identify what role you play in the communities by one of these four. Drop it in the comment section. Are you an advocate, an organizer, educator, or broker? Which capacity have you played in? Just drop it in the comments. Just share it with the team so we can kind of get the dialogue going and seeing where we are at as social workers. What do we do more of? And see if you're able to identify what type of social worker you are. And while you're at it, while you're putting that in the comment section, just go ahead and like this video. We only about, 5 minutes in? I don't know. Let me see. 7 minutes in the whole video. This is the best time to go ahead and like it. This is the best time to subscribe and the best time to leave a comment just to let me know how it was going. I've been looking at my stats, of course, in the videos, and I know I've been able to hold pretty much everyone's attention for a full 8 minutes. And I know that's just an average. Some people watch the whole video. Some people watch 2 minutes of a video. So on average, I'm holding your interest about 7 to 8 minutes. So that's right about now when you guys drop. So that's why I'm not going to give any more juice, any more sauce until you go ahead and like and subscribe to let me know that, hey, I'm following you. I'm listening. I'm actually holding on to the end and catching what you're throwing. That's what I want to know. All right, let me move on. So let me talk about some high yield theories and models that you're likely to see when it comes to communities. These are tested frequently on the ASWB exam. So this is a way to break it down and say, okay, what's on the exam? I got a lot of community questions. I heard a lot of questions about this. You know, I get that feedback when I meet with people one-on-one and talk about their hangups or the things they weren't expecting on the exam or how was the exam and all of that kind of stuff. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not one to push what I offer. I know I'm good at what I do. Well, I'm not going to say good. I know I'm great at what I do. And I know I can help you elevate and I know I can help you get to the next level. However, you have to believe that and want that for yourself. I have so many people who tell me they've watched my videos from the beginning to the end and binge watched them and went in there and rocked that test. And is it because of the videos? Absolutely. That's a part of it. But a huge part of it is their mindset. They were determined to get what they needed to get and obtain what they needed to from these videos to be successful. I have another group of people who jump into the community and they're like, oh, I'm testing. And they test and things just don't go out as planned. But I haven't had a chance to kind of connect with them because they had already had their test date. They were ready. They were doing this. And I'm not going to tell you not to test, but meeting one-on-one, I can see where you are and give some recommendations or some advice. I know you're not my therapy client, so I can give you advice and just tell you like, hey, hold off, give yourself 30 days. Why don't you drop into a few coaching sessions, see what you can get. Let me help you with some of those areas that you're struggling with. And then let's chop it up and get you to this exam. So those are some things I want you to consider, guys. Take some time to reflect and think about where you are in your test taking journey. If you've done a million courses, you don't need another course, but you do need something that's going to help you simplify and understand this information in a way that you can, I was going to say regurgitate, but the way you can take it all in and then put it back out. All right. So that is pretty much what I need you guys to do when you're taking the test. So let's think about these high yield theories and models. Let me go ahead and break it down for you. The first one we have is the systems theory. The core concepts here is that communities are interconnected parts. So the church is connected to the school is connected to the home is connected to the church and the school. You know, as you can see, all of these different communities are connected together. That is pretty much the way to look at it. So an exam application would be something like, how does a school closing affect the whole community? Great question, and it gives us some context to really think about. If a school closed, how would it affect the community? It would not only affect the children that attend the school and the parents of finding another place or having to get their child adjusted or adapted, should I say, to another school, but also the staff, the people who work there, the people who have became a community and a safe space for that child are now sent off to different places or no longer able to have a job, and then they're low income. Then their income becomes lower because they're unemployed. There's a lot of different things that can happen, and we don't realize how these are all interconnected. So that's how I want you to think about it. When you see a question, we got to think about things on a broader perspective when we're considering something as simple as this. A school closes, but what could be the damage for the whole neighborhood? Are you studying for the LCSW or LMSW exam? Don't waste time on the wrong prep. Try my test prep program for free with a full module that gives you the real strategies, the real practice, and real results. Plus, you get access to my exclusive test prep community where you'll find support, study material, and accountability. No risk, no stress, just results. Click the link in the bio so you can get ready to win with the winning team. Let's talk about the ecological perspective. That is the pie, the person in the environment. And I know last time I talked about pie, my stomach was growling. And it's really early in the morning, but it's still growling, y'all. I just guess I need to eat. So that's what I think about when I hear the pie. That is the person in the environment, however. And a client, say, is homeless due to lack of shelters that I have here as an example. What will be needed? Some type of macro level intervention. It wouldn't be a micro and it wouldn't be a meso. Why would it be a macro? Because yes, you're working with an individual, so most of you are going to jump and say, oh my God, it's an individual, it's micro, it's micro, it's micro. But look at the bigger scope of things. This individual is homeless due to lack of shelters. So the lack of shelters is the issue, which is going to require you to delve a little bit deeper and to connect a little bit more, because that is a larger group, a larger need in the community. So that is kind of how you're going to look at that in context, in a broader context. So let's talk about the social capital theory. That is where there are bonds within a group versus bridges between groups. So think about it. We bond together within a group, or we can build bridges. And that helps like different groups connect to one another. So a way you would apply this on the exam is that a community with strong social networks recovers faster from disasters. You know why? Because of the bond within the community and the bridges they have to be able to obtain and get the resources they need so that actual community could be successful. Then you have the locality development. That is like the grassroots, participating in change. We're going to make it happen. We're going to do this. Those are some things that you'll see there. Some examples here would be residents design a neighborhood cleanup program. Basically, look, the neighborhood needs to be cleaned up. We can't wait for the government to do it. We're going to put something together and we're going to make it happen. That is a development that's taking place in a specific locality. Another one would be social planning. This is where you have expert-led solutions. So you have a nonprofit that's analyzing the data and they're trying to figure out how we're going to allocate these funds. We have all these needs and all this stuff going on, but we got to figure out how to allocate these funds so the mental health can be met. This can be met. This can be met. And that is pretty much what social planning is. You're taking the information, you're planning an effective way after analyzing the data and determining what needs to take place. And then last but not least, we have social action. Social action is advocacy for marginalized groups. That's pretty much what happens there. You have a group of people who are marginalized. They don't have the same resources to support and the connections that they need to be treated in a way that they're able to overcome their situation and circumstances. So in here with the social action, you have advocacy here. And an example on exam would be organizing a rent strike against unfair evictions. So you have a group of people who can't pay their rent and they're being evicted at an all-time high. And maybe as a social worker, you are advocating for them and trying to organize a way that they can be heard, and the community can understand that they are being treated unfairly, and then how to proceed and move forward. All right. So let's talk about some must know interventions. You have an asset based community development. That's the ABCD. Can't beat it. So if you're looking at the test, you ain't even got to remember this long behind word. Asset based community development. You might see it, you might not. But all you need to know is ABCD. ABCD, that's it. That's, you write it down on a sheet of paper or just memorize it, or just right now just say ABCD. That's it. That's all I want you to say. And then when you see that, you focus on the strengths, not the deficits. Some examples here would be training unemployed youth as tutors. So they're unemployed, but they have a skill set, they have a strength. So we're going to figure out a way to use that strength so they can better themselves and also better the community. So a clue might be in an exam, empower, or an existing resource, or resident led. That is letting you know that that is an ABCD, an asset based community development. It is something that is developed within the community that is an asset and used from the positivity or the great things or the strengths are used, not the person or the community's deficits. We're looking at the great things. So that is the asset based community development. All right. Needs assessment. Some needs assessment, you have the methods here of surveys, focus groups, public data. Here goes on the tip. What should the social worker do first? What do we do first, guys? We've been talking about this all day long in every question, but this is a great example to let you know that assess does not always mean a biopsychosocial assessment. It means some form of an assessment. So what should a social worker do first in a needs assessment if you're dealing with community relations and community circumstances? Assess for the needs before we act. So if you're trying to determine what needs to be done in the community, assess what's needed first. They need housing. They don't have these type of resources. They don't have this. This is going on, blah, blah, blah. So you have a list of all their needs, and then you can prioritize and decide what needs to happen before the next. So is housing a true issue, or is it maybe they don't have the job so they can't afford the housing? This is where you determine those needs, and that is why communities, and this is how community shows up on the exam. Coalition building. An example of this is like partnering with churches, schools, clinics, all these types of things. And here's a twist when you're taking the ASWB exam. It may ask about conflict resolution between groups. Like, how do you handle conflict amongst groups? So that is something how you would do that through coalition building. You build a community, you partner with these resources, and that is a good, optimistic, and positive way that we deal with some conflicts that people have within their communities. Let's talk about some policy advocacy. And of course, I know this is a lot of information, guys. So right now at this point in the video, if you want to pause and take a breath, take a deep breath, grab you some water, pause the video, go to the bathroom, grab a snack, whatever you want to do. We don't have much longer, but I also want you to focus. Sometimes it's the little things that come to bite us in the butt. And while we jump up because we're tired, bored, oh, this is so difficult, I don't understand it, we give up. So just pause. Sometimes we need to take a mental break. And that is what I'm telling you guys to do during your exam. It is important to take breaks, guys. You need to let your brain reset and rest and relax and realize what it's focusing on so you can truly understand it. So before we jump into this part, go ahead and make sure you like, subscribe, comment, take a pause, comment, get a glass of water, whatever you need to do, and then come back and let's knock out these last few slides. You got me? All right. Thank you. And if you have not yet joined the community, a lot of people hit me up in the comment section like, I need more from you. I appreciate it. I love you. This is helping. This is da 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 da. They don't necessarily say they love me, but I threw that in there. But they're just giving me positive things about how this community has been so helpful and so beneficial to their test taking journey. So I'm asking you right now just to go ahead and join the community. If you don't know where it's at, go in the description section of this video or go into the description section of my YouTube channel and you'll see a link that says communities. Click on it. It's free. Like, all you do is click, fill out a few questions, join the community, guys, and you in there like swimwear. Yes, you're in there and you're able to get free questions, case studies, scenarios. I don't know if people join and expect me to be in there doing the videos like I do here. That's not what takes place, but I do throw questions in there pretty much at least 3 to 4 times a week. I'm throwing some heavy hitters in there just for you to think. And most of the time, they're questions based on my videos that I pose. So Sunday, which was Mother's Day, I went in here and posed a few questions on ethics because the last group was on ethics. And then we have upcoming groups and you'll be able to know that. So this upcoming week, we're doing the F&BM method that I've kind of created and kind of mastered and help people. And I do get comments literally pretty much every day about how that was a game changer for the test for them and how they pass and succeed. I'm able to use those in my community and break down questions in my actual coaching session. So if you're not a part of that, guys, take some time and go ahead and do yourself a solid. Join the coaching community at the very least. That's letting me know that you appreciate what I'm giving you, and then also that you want to learn and elevate your knowledge to a different level, a little bit more. So policy and advocacy. Here are some key programs. You got the CDBG. That is the Community Development Block Grants. That's pretty much where you get the federal funding for housing, job training, and all that key stuff. That is an example of a way that we advocate for our clients and get the services and the support they need within a community. Another one is the LIHTC. Most of these guys you're not going to remember. You're going to say LITHC, CDBG. We're not rapping. We're not kind of coming up with a song for this. These are just something that happens. So when you think of policy advocacy and you have a test question, you might just need to know that there's some community development grants. There's some low income housing credits. These are the things. Knowing all the intricate details of what the word and what that stands for again, don't sit here right now and copy this on a sheet of paper on your little tiny note card and try to memorize all this stuff. Because I'm letting you know right now, you don't need to do it. Do I know it like that? No. And I've been a social worker for years. So it's important to know, but when you're taking a test question, sometimes it's just process of elimination. Some of these things you can break it down, you can understand. If it's talking to you about housing and jobs and money and federal funding and stuff, then you're thinking grants. If it's talking about affordability and it pertains to housing, typically that's like your low income housing, your Section 8, your subsidized housing, all those types of things. So some things you can just like think about it and it's going to flow. Don't put a lot of energy and time into trying to learn the nuances because I don't want you guys to stress yourself out. All right. Let's talk about how ethics tie into this. The NASW Standard Code of Ethics says advocate for living conditions conducive to social justice. So that is something that we must do as social workers. So that is what the NASW Code of Ethics say. You know what I mean? I even put the code in there, 6.01. Go check it out. So basically, we just need to understand as social workers that we have to advocate that our clients have good living conditions and that there's justice, social justice for those that we service. So that is something that you need to be aware of. And this is just how it ties into the whole ethics thingy-majiggy. All right, disaster response. This is tested often. You'll see questions where they're talking about the different phases like preparedness. That is like community emergency plans. You might talk about a response phase, a recovery phase, the mitigation phase. This is pretty much what's being covered in that. The response phase is pretty much like coordinating shelters. It's been a huge hurricane or natural disaster and the community's coming together and we're trying to figure out how we're going to help or how we're going to help this community evolve and get to the next level after dealing with such a major disaster. That is how we respond. That is what we do. We coordinate shelters. We come up with a plan of how we're going to fix the community and get things going. You see these things in a lot of shows that are small community oriented, which is just a small group of people coming together. They all live together and they're their own resources. They don't really use outside resources as much as larger cities do. They figure out a way to make it happen. And of course, social workers be all up in the mix, making it do what it do. All right, another one will be recovery. This is like the long-term mental health support. Like if it's a major disaster, this can do something mentally to a person. What if a person lost their home? They lost a person in their life. This is something that will help them get through. You have to have some type of recovery phases where we're going through those things and make sure that people are getting the needs and the support they need. All right, and then the mitigation, that's like lobbying for certain things to take place and to help and to prevent things from moving forward, or should I say prevent things from happening again, so that way you know how to move forward now to prevent it in the future. And that is mitigation. That is lobbying for like flood barriers, maybe putting different things in the community, maybe access to different resources, making sure there's more shelters, things like that. We're kind of mitigating things to make sure that it can help so these future situations can be more preventable or manageable, should I say. An exam question. After tornado, a social risk priority is to do what? Of course, they're going to have other options. But if there's a tornado, we want to make sure we're ensuring safety. We also want to make sure we're contacting like FEMA and other resources that are going to step in and help this community get the resources and the help they need. So these are the things we need to think about when we hear like disaster response questions. All right, power dynamics and ethics, stakeholder mapping. Who has the influence? The mayor, the governor, the corporations, the grassroots leaders. These are the people who are the stakeholders. We also want to look at conflict examples like opposition to homeless shelters. Like this is where you want to use your mediation skills. Someone doesn't want to go into a shelter. So you're telling them, okay, I understand you don't want to go to a shelter, but kind of helping them see the other reasons how it can be beneficial, or figuring out some other ways that they can get help and support and assistance they need. And then you have those ethical dilemmas, balancing individual versus community needs. This is very, very important when you're dealing with public safety. You want to balance what's going on with the person individually, but you also have that huge community that is a big part. And you got to make sure people needs and they're getting the support they need so they can be given the resources so they can be healthy, sound, and get them back to a level place, whether it's through their job, whether it's through their housing, whatever it may be. So sometimes you are going to see some ethical dilemmas when it comes to this section of the exam, like always in all the sections of the exam. But here, this is where a social worker has to really do some balancing and prioritize what's most important, the best interest of this person or the best interest of the whole community. Drop it in the chat. Do you think it's the benefit of the individual or the benefit of the community? Or does it matter based on what role or who you are to this individual or to the community as a social worker? What you think? Put it in the comment section. So here goes some exam secrets, how to spot community level answers. You're going to see like macro keywords like policy, organized, funding, systemic, coalition. These type of terms you're going to see in the question. Then you know you're dealing with something community related. You know what I mean? And then you have some micro tips. Those could be the wrong answers. Well, not could be. They likely will be. And it kind of goes back to answer the question I just asked you guys. Because think about it. If it's a community, you're dealing on a larger scale. So you're not going to be working with just the one person. That's not your priority when you're dealing with a community. It's the community as a whole. So you want to look at like providing therapy, creating treatment, all those types of things you want to consider. All right, and here goes a two-step strategy. Identify the level, like is it a micro level, are you working with just the individual, or the macro, which is the community. For this section of the exam, you're probably working on the macro level, but there are going to be some individualistic things too that you will focus on. So really hone in on the question and what it's asking so you can determine what level you need to be at. And then you want to match the role. Are you an advocate, an organizer, a broker? Like what are you? I know you're a social worker, but what are you in this capacity of this community situation? And quick mnemonics. I already told you the ABCD, the lid. These are some terms that you just see here and you just want to know. So you might not know the question, but if you see a word, that locality, interest-based, is that all of that stuff, you just know that, okay, lid, you're thinking that. Don't waste time trying to memorize it. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, it's okay. As long as you know the big scope of things, like macro, the micro, the meso. I did a video on that, but this is kind of explaining on a community level. You're looking more of the macro level. So just keep that in mind and how you're going to kind of help with the resources and your role, what it could possibly be. All right, final checklist. Just know about 3 community models. We talked about social action, social plan, all that kind of stuff. Just kind of have a little understanding of that. You also want to know some federal programs. We talked about the CDBG and the LIHTC. Those are just the acronyms. You can go back in the video and watch it. Just kind of have an idea. Don't really hound your brain again. You just see something, you see the acronym, you're like, oh, that's that one of those federal that you remember it just from that. And then you want to practice some macro level question stems. So like, if they're asking you some things like what is on the macro level, what is on the macro level, like as a social worker, what are you doing? Okay, you're dealing and addressing with the community as a whole. All right. And you also want to review the NASW Code of Ethics on Advocacy. That is the 6.01 section, because you want to really understand that and kind of know how to handle it or manage those questions when it comes to the NASW Code of Ethics. All right, guys, I hope this video was hella helpful. I tried to keep it nice and short but sweet, but you guys requested it. Y'all like, look, can you do something on communities? So your girl gave you what you asked for, all right? I hope it was appreciative. Make sure you drop it in the comment section. You know I read each and every comment and respond to it. So if you have a question or you're saying something or you need clarity on a video or something's not clear or you need to see more of something, I try to connect with those in my community first, but sometimes if they don't share or don't have an idea because, they're getting all the sauce already, I come out to you guys and I like to hear what you guys have to say and what you guys need. So, of course, make sure you like, subscribe, make sure you tell a friend, make sure the bare minimum you join our free community so you can get down with your girl, learn more information, and be the best social worker you can be so you can pass this exam. And then come back and let me know when you license. Those videos just make my day. Whew, you have no idea. It makes me just jump out and just do another video. Literally, every time someone tells me they pass, I run in my little office, come up with some ideas. I look at some things that people suggested and requested, and I'm like, look, I got to put this to work because this is working. And it's nothing like knowing something works that keeps you motivated to keep working at it. Until the next one, guys, have an amazing day.